Good evening. I have a few more thoughts that I'd like to present today. It is about what you worship. I've always been a very strong advocate of the right and the freedom that we have to worship how, where, and what we may. But I'm also concerned about the modern passiveness or direction that we're taking by being uh, that churches and religions are being so purposely influenced by activists. And again, I have the highest respect for um, activists, lobbyists, those who have a purpose um, for what they're doing. It is part of their free speech as long as it is peaceful. But I've got a problem. When you start to impose your activist ideas onto a church or a religion, trying to change it fundamentally, that is not being a part of that faith. And I've got no problem saying that. What you are doing is, if you are an activist and you are trying to change something at its very core, I have every belief that you have the right, duty, and responsibility to write your religious leadership and inquire as to why certain things are, and maybe even, let's think about this. But to get an organized effort and claim an all-out assault on that faith while claiming that faith yourself, that is not being faithful. And I've got no problem saying that. Because what you are doing is you are utilizing your pride to tear down the faith of another person. Not just another person, but a whole entire people. For instance, our faith, we do not have an ordained female priesthood holding ministry. We believe the priesthood is after the order of the Son of God, and it is held by the men of worthiness of the church. But we also hold and preach that our wives and our female daughters and sisters are shareholders in the priesthood. They don't officiate, but they share in the blessings of the priesthood that priesthood holder brings into the home. That's not being racist. That is acknowledging the roles that God has placed for a man and a woman. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. It should be celebrated. But we our faith as well as others are under an all-out assault by groups out there demanding that you allow ordained female ministers into the church, because that is our faith and that's what we believe, and you'll do it. The only thing I can say to that is bull honky. You are trying to tear down the faith of millions of other people based solely on your pride. That's all it is. That's all it is. And I should be more compassionate in how I say this, but I will not, because to me it's a blatant, it is so apparent what's going on here. Pride is one of the main tools that Satan has, and he uses it well. And he uses it so well because we, in our mortal ways, are so suckered into it each and every time. So, what I would say is, if you are true, devout to your religion, whether you are a Catholic, whether you are a Latter-day Saint, whether you are whatever you are, if you claim that to be so true, I ask you, what do you worship? Anyone who has a firm testament of the faith that they profess should be able to profess that the doctrines are ordained of God, sent by God through his oracles. That is the foundation of worship, is that things that you worship is from God. Is that not true? So, if you can hold to that, then you should be satisfied with consulting with your leadership in a peaceful manner about your issues. And if the counsel that you receive is not to your liking, through worship, true worship, you should find the humility within yourself to make those corrections within yourself. You don't just go on a frenzy and shout, from the hilltops, all is lost, and you will do this, you will do that. That's not how it works if you are a true, devout follower of that faith. It's all about pride. That's what the whole issue is. Activism is about pride. So, on the other spectrum, I advocate all faiths that if you hold true to your respective doctrines, you will stand. You will not stand if you become consumed through pressures from groups, from mortal man. You have to weigh yourself. Do you want to be pressured by God or by mortal man? Which one is heavier? That's what we need to be thinking about. For instance, in my faith, the Latter-day Saint faith, every 6 months we have what we call a general conference. It is where the membership collect in their respective meeting houses, and they hear the words of the prophets and apostles and general authorities of the church. On that Saturday evening, there's what's called a priesthood session. It is for the members of the church who are priesthood holders or striving to be. And recently, a feminist activism group that wants to have women ordained to the priesthood submitted a request for reservations for this event. I think it was like 150 reservations. And I am very proud, very confident in my church that they rejected that because of their gender. It is not discrimination. It is the right to worship under the Constitution. The right to worship as we see fit. As we see fit until the Lord changes it, is to have the male members attend personally this conference. Now it is currently being beamed. It's going to be a public meeting, but that is in no way to be taken as a step towards ordaining women to the priesthood, because as far as I'm concerned, they have a higher degree than I will ever have, Just because I hold the priesthood, they are still the mothers and the wives. They put up with our garbage. So I put them on a very much higher pedestal than anything I could ever attain. So it's not a matter of power for us in the church. This is the way it is until the Lord changes it. But because I worship the way I worship, I have faith in our authorities. And if they should deem a change be made through the revelations from our Father in heaven, then it shall be done. And I will take that counsel and I will implement it into my life, and I will learn from it. I will be humbled by it. That's called the human journey. So that is my quest for everyone out there, is instead of throwing an axe at people about churches and calling discrimination or whatever, first look at the Constitution of the United States and the rights that we have under it to worship as we please. And then I would ask yourself, what is it you worship? I don't care what denomination you affiliate with. What do you worship? And for your answers, where does that line of authority go? And if it all leads back to your pride overriding what your faith says, then you have the problem, not the church. You have the problem. Those are my thoughts.